Guys, welcome back. In the last video, we used a black and white adjustment layer in Photoshop to convert this image to black and white. And we used the targeted adjustment tool right here to click and drag on the image, click, to change the way the black and white looks. So it's selecting the slider that's applicable to that luminosity value and moving it for you. One of the things about black and white is that it often lacks contrast. So we're going to go back to adjustments and add a curves layer. So this isn't so bad, but it starts to look a little flat. And let's isolate one of these areas. There's also, I think, we're going to need to burn in. With this curves layer, I'm going to grab the scrubby hand, click in the image, pull down where I want a little more contrast, click up, so that what I'm doing is creating a very subtle S curve, right, in my tonal curve. And you can see the before and after. So it is a great deal more contrast, and contrast is the difference between whites and blacks as opposed to exposure, which is how bright or how dark an image is. So we can do that. That's not too bad. But what I want to do over here is see if we can darken this area. I'm going to use a selection tool. I'm going to use the Polygon Lasso tool and very quickly make a selection. When you see the little icon, the lasso gets a little 0. That means when you click, it will finish. I'm going to make a new adjustment layer from this selection. Sorry about that. All right, back to our adjustments. With this selection active, I'm going to hit the curves. Now you'll see it made a curved layer where black is being hidden and white's being revealed. So we can just edit this portion here using a curved layer. I'm going to start moving values around, and you can see it's just in that section. That's it, because we started with a selection. And I think that's going to work pretty well. You can always reset it to default if you've gone too far. Grab the targeted adjustment tool, little scrubby hand, and I'm going to click and drag to bring that down, meaning I don't want it to be so bright and it looks like there's a loss of detail. I want to bring that in. That looks pretty good, but there is some weirdness on the edges. So let's zoom in. Hold the space bar down to move around. Grab the scrubby hand. There we go. Sorry, I had to adjust my history. When I moved my keyboard, I went back a couple. So we have a pretty good adjustment for the hot spots, but now we need to edit the layer mask. And we can do that by simply selecting not the layer thumbnail, but the mask thumbnail, hitting B for brush, make sure the foreground and background are black and white. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger, and instead of an opacity of 100, I'm going to hit 5 on my keypad, and that's going to set the brush for an opacity of 50. I'm going to work very softly to try and get rid of that harsh line. Right? I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. If you click and drag a couple of times on the tool, it will start to build up. If I want to go back to an opacity of 100, I can hit 10 on the keypad. Now, I'm not headed in the right direction, so I'm going to hit X and put the white in the front. There we go. That looks a little unnatural, so let's hit X, go back to 50. If you want a straight line, you can hold the shift down. We'll keep that straight. And let's see, if we turn the layer on and off, we've still got some pretty harsh edges for that mask. So I'm going to go down just along the edges and make sure that they're softer and that you can't tell what I've done. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I can soften it up here along this edge. All right, and then you may want to take the opacity of the whole layer down when you're done. That is your before, and that is your after. And we did that by starting with a selection, using the lasso, making a selection, then making an adjustment layer, using the brush on the layer mask thumbnail with different opacities, which you can adjust up in the option bar. And then finally, changing the curve's opacity from 100 to like the mid-60s. So that looks pretty good. And now that we have a layer mask, if we come back and we see that we need more blending, we can always add to the mask.